Welcome back, America. John Campbell, former congressman, member of the Budget Committee and House Financial Services, joins me. He's got a brand new Twitter handle, X handle, finally, JBT Campbell. He finally listened to reason and to Dwayne and I, and now you can find him at JBT Campbell, which you actually have a shot at remembering. JBT Campbell, indeed. Congressman, welcome. President Trump is giving his Make America Wealthy Again speech. I want to play for you a cut of it, have you respond, do that again, see what you have to say about Make America Wealthy Again. So here's that first cut number, I guess it's 13.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steel workers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen.
John Campbell, that's a pretty big promise. What do you think?
Well, I actually support a lot of what he's doing here, but boy, he's pushing a rock uphill. The left, all the Democrats are going to oppose anything he does. We've heard this before, as or I don't think he said this, but I've certainly said it. If Trump cured cancer, the Democrats would have a press conference the next day and say he put doctors and nurses out of work and that he's destroying jobs. And so they're going to oppose almost anything he does. But even on the Republican side, there's a significant number of Republicans, the Wall Street Journal editorial board, Steve Moore, a whole bunch of people who have been pro-Trump on a lot of things are not pro-Trump on the tariff issues. So he's pushing a rock uphill here, but I think what he's doing is the right thing. I actually wrote about this on my blog at lookthroughthechaos.com. You'll see some of what I wrote about this, that we are at a point in international relations in general, not just with economics and tariffs and trade, with other things as well, where what has existed since World War II is starting to break down, and it's time to redo it. It's just not working anymore. And we cannot, as a country, not make steel. We cannot, as a country, not make cars. We can't, as a country, not make pharmaceuticals. We can't, as a country, not have the various minerals and so forth that we need to make weapon systems to defend this country. And that's a lot of what he's trying to restore. It's going to be a bumpy road and a tough road, no question about it, but I support the objective.
Now, you were a car guy before you became a state legislator and then a congressman, and a very successful car guy. The first thing the president announced is that beginning at midnight tonight, there will be a 25% tariff on all foreign automobile imports. What do you think about that?
Right. And it's interesting, in his speech, which I listened to just before I came on here, he said that the EU charges 10%, but he said we're going to have reciprocal tariffs, but he says 25%. But it's because he's including the value-added tax, the VAT, and considering that as a tariff that they have in Europe. But let me tell you just a couple of facts. Everybody's like, all right, everything's going to go up 25%, et cetera. There's been a few announcements. Ferrari, okay, I understand it's Ferrari, it's the top end of the market. But they announced a couple days ago that they have 6 models. They're not raising the price at all on 3 of them. They're eating the tariff. On the other 3, they're raising it 10%. And they said that, when you take into account all the cars we sell worldwide, which they do, this is going to lower our overall margin by 0.5 point to 1 point. And margins on luxury cars like that are very high. And the stock went up. Ferrari is a publicly traded company. The stock went up on that announcement. Porsche announced they're raising the price of the 911 by 7%, but the rest of their cars only by a few hundred to a few $1,000s each. Volkswagen just today came out and said they're going to put like an addendum on the window sticker that is like tariff charge. Now, they didn't say how much it's going to be, and Volkswagen builds some cars in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so they don't build all their cars overseas, but the ones they do, they're going to put some tariff charge on there. So the idea that all these manufacturers are going to raise the price by 25% and it's going to kill the industry, that is not what we've seen so far, nor is it historically what companies do. Because if you raise the price 25%, they will sell a whole lot less. And most of these companies can't afford to do that. They can't afford to shut
let me
those
ask you a
plants down
question,
and do
John.
that.
I am the least qualified person in the world to talk about the economic effects of tariffs, so I don't. But I do have an opinion on what inflation means. When people talk about inflation driving them crazy, they're not talking about car prices. They're talking about gas and groceries and rent. That's where inflation hurts them. As far as I can tell, the tariffs aren't going to impact groceries, and it's not going to impact gas. We do get some gas from Canada, but I don't think it's going to impact it very much. It might impact rent over the course of 3 or 4 years because we do import some building supplies. But what do you make of my basic assessment? This is not an inflation issue, though all the economists say it's going to cause inflation.
I would agree. And the one thing is that if it does cause inflation, it's a single bump. So, if a car company raises the price of their cars by 10% to pay the tariff, then there won't be another tariff next year. That's presumably. So that's it. It's just one time. It's up 10%. That's it. You're done. If it goes up next year, it's because the parts went up or just normal inflation factors went into effect. But you're right. The cars also, things like that. That's not something people do every day, every month, every year even. Most people are keeping cars. Used to be new every 2. That was the car business mantra for many years, but that's not what happens now. People keep cars 3, 4, and 5 years. So it's not something you buy all the time. And let's remember that there will be no tariffs on domestically produced cars, which, by the way, is not just Ford and General Motors and some Chrysler products. Most Toyotas are built in the United States. Most Hondas are built in the United States. A lot of the Kias and Hyundais are built in the United States. Some of the Volkswagens are built in the United States. Some of the BMWs are built in the United States. So there will be an awful lot of cars that are not affected by this price. And frankly, if I'm some of those people, if I'm running Ford Motor Company right now, I'd probably come out and say, you know what? Because of this, we're going to lower the price of an F-150. We're going to lower the price for Mustang. We're going to show people. We're going to show people if you buy American, the price difference is even greater. We want to support President Trump on what he's doing to buy American, and that's what I'd do if I were them.
Okay, I'm going to keep talking with John Campbell during the break about the tariffs. He's going to come back on the other side before Leader Thune shows up at 44 minutes after the hour. But I want to play a couple more cuts for him about President Trump's speech on tariffs. Make America wealthy again is how the speech is being billed. Markets in the aftermarket are not reacting poorly. I also get John Campbell's reaction to that because I kind of judge by the market whether or not there is a bad shock happening. And thus far, that ain't happening in the aftermarket, where the Dow is up 1.22% for tomorrow, the S&P is up 1.29%, and the NASDAQ is up 1.76% in the aftermarket. So I'll talk with John Campbell about that. So I'm back with Congressman John Campbell during the break. We'll put it on our YouTube channel. John, today the Dow went up 0.5%, the S&P went up 0.75%, the NASDAQ went up 0.87%. In the aftermarket, they're all doing well again. What does that tell you, if anything?
The first thing it says is that nothing the president said today is a shock. He didn't come in and say 50% tariff. He didn't come in and say, I've changed my mind, no tariff. It sounds like, and he's still talking as we speak here, showing up charts. So he's showing up a chart right now of reciprocal tariffs, of how much by country, how much they charge us and how much we charge them, and what they're going to do about all of that. And he also pointed out during the speech earlier that there are a lot of non-monetary tariffs, and that's some of what he's talking about as well. I remember when I was in Congress, we were working on that the EU would not allow any GMO, the import of agricultural products that were GMO. Well, all soybeans are GMO, all corn is GMO, All that stuff is done so that the bugs don't attack it, so you can make more of it. That's a whole separate subject we don't want to get into. But the point is, they basically banned the import of U.S. agricultural products because of the way we produce them. So that's a monetary tariff that he talked about. But I think the fact that the market isn't reacting, I'm just looking right now. Now it's showing the market down 1%, the Dow and the S&P down 1.82. So there must be something he just said in the last 10 minutes caused the market to go a little bit down, but it's not dramatic. It's not a huge impact. So
okay, I'm curious. I don't know enough about this to have expertise, but it does seem to me as though a lot of countries play a lot of tricks with us. And I'm thinking of Canada and dairy products from Wisconsin. They don't let them in. I thought GATT was supposed to get rid of all that stuff, and NAFTA and the North American Free Trade Act. Why can't we sell dairy products in Canada?
I don't know, because, well, I can surmise they're trying to protect their dairy industry. And we have a lot of dairies in Wisconsin, obviously, but also in Minnesota and in Michigan and in New York. And that's close to Canada. And we could import products up there, and they're trying to protect their dairy industry. Okay, fine. I get that. I understand that. We have a lot of industries in this country we need to protect. So that's where you either go and say, look, it's either 0-0, which I saw Netanyahu, I believe today, said they are not going to tariff anything from the United States. So we won't tariff any other way. So I assume with Israel, we're going to be 0-0. And if Canada wants to do that, that's fine. But part of the problem with Canada is so much from China goes in there, and then they try and export to the U.S. to avoid the Chinese tariffs. And the Canadians have been allowing that to occur, and that's got to stop too. So this stuff is complicated. I remember one time when I was negotiating with Obama's U.S. trade representative on these agricultural tariffs. And what they said, it was interesting because I was meeting with the British.
Hold the story. We got to go to. We're going to come back.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence.
So I am talking, hi, Hugh again. That is President Trump. He continues to talk to an audience assembled in the Rose Garden. Congressman John Campbell is my guest. During the break, we were talking about Canada and tariffs, and your conversation with President Obama's USTR. Was it Mickey? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but it was with the British ambassador, and they were complaining when Dodd-Frank, the financial rules had been passed. We imposed all the rules in Dodd-Frank on foreign banks. And they said, you know what, we'll release the agricultural restrictions we have on you if you'll release the foreign banking stuff on us. We don't know why because you're saying if we don't follow your Dodd-Frank rules in our own country, then we can't do business in your country. We understand we have to follow the rules in your country, but why do we have to follow them in ours? And I thought this would have been a great deal because they were agreeing to lift all the non-monetary restrictions on U.S. agricultural products, which would have meant we could have sent a lot more soybeans and corn and wheat and all that to and beef to the EU. But Obama wouldn't do it because they were so locked on the Dodd-Frank, and that Dodd-Frank was the greatest thing in the world for financial industry regulation, and the whole world needed to adopt it. So what you see now is that's the kind of thing that creates this stuff, okay, that's built this stuff up. And it's built up over years and years. I mean, you want to go back to after World War II, where we were producing all kinds of things, and these other countries were trying to get their feet up off the ground after they were blown up in World War II. And so they imposed a lot of tariffs and we didn't, and it was a fine, and it worked out then. It's a different world today, a completely different world today. And it's time for a new regime, and I'm glad that Donald Trump's looking at it. Look, there's going to be some boo-boos here. There's going to be some stuff they're going to put in that they're going to say, yeah, that wasn't so great an idea. And they'll reverse it, and that's what will happen. But the general trend of what he's trying to do here.
Let me ask you, though, as a member of Congress, the tariff power has typically been a legislative power unless it's related to national security. As a former member of Congress, do you object to the president, in effect, invoking national security to accomplish economic ends?
Congress has ceded too much power to the executive, period. And that is not just on this subject, but on many other subjects. Our executive is getting more powerful, I think, than our the founders ever intended the executive to be. So yes, it is really remarkable when you think about it that the president can do all this stuff by executive order, and Biden did the same. And so, and as I say, when I was working with Obama, they were doing the same. So there is too much power in the executive, in my opinion. So,
And now I've got Leader Thune coming up, so I want to ask you a very quick exit question. The bird rule, is it as much a pain in the neck as I think it is for getting serious cuts done?
yes, it is. And there's a whole lot of these arcane restrictions. We've talked about the Budget Act of 1974 and the Byrd Rule and some other things that make it difficult for Congress to move. Because one of the reasons so much power has been lodged in the executive is because Congress has become so calcified, not because of the current division between the parties, but because the rules make it so difficult to move on things and to act and to react, and frankly, because the federal government is too involved in too many things. I mean, it's too involved in too many things for 537 people
Too big.
to manage.
Too big and time to cut. John Campbell, thank you. Follow him at his brand new X handle, which actually makes sense. JBT Campbell. JBT Campbell on X. Thank you, John.